Alright. I guess the question is, do I have this music on or not? Fuck you too, Gravity. One of my many velociraptors to spill. Alright. You know, right now it's just the warm-up period where you get the stream started. So right now I'm going to erase all the pencil on this piece. Get some masking fluid on here. This shit is over a decade old. So I figure it's probably not good. Is there an expiration date? Is it 2009? Never mind, it's almost, yeah, it's like a decade and a half. So, yeah, we'll just throw that in the trash. But to do fireworks from videos I was watching, the idea is to mask up some areas you want to be white. So you could just paint white over it, but whatever. I did see some people use a crayon method, but that just looked, I don't know, it kind of didn't, I did not like the desired effect when I saw that. Use a white crayon. So yeah, title of this is Grade School PTSD. I think I've just been putting this off for a bit. That's why I didn't draw anything, work on this at all last week, other than the other video I was working on. But right now, I need to get my masking tape. Masking tape. Masking tape. There's a masking tape. Just need something I can bond to this cardboard a little bit more so it doesn't wrinkle in on itself. So yeah, I don't know where to start. I think it's just first thing to start with is just reflecting on the current day, or rather maybe like 10 years in the past to start. Because I remember there was a time when I, along with many others, had some sort of impression that a lot of like the queer-based, race-based bullying, bullying, wow, can I say it? Bullying. Whatever. Point is, a lot of us were under the impression that this race-based, queer-based bullying was just not there anymore. Because in the public internet sphere, queer people were just generally a little more accepted. Racism was kind of like being called out. And it's to the point where, like, I remember I made a video about Beandog's Baldur's Gate 1 expansion they did. And a bunch of people were butthurt because they included a trans character in there. And I was mocking the people that were getting mad at it for just the fact that there was a trans character in there. And making fun of Gamergate and some other pop culture shit. And I figured, you know what, I guess I'm just inherently a contrarian, because I just felt like a push. Not even a push, I just like felt a desire and draw towards just taking the opposite position. And I did believe in it, I still did. I still do. But some people, the few people that commented on that video, were like, huh, as if to think that there's going to be a bunch of, people willing to single out trans people and queer and gay people and make fun of them. As if we live in that environment still. And, part of me kind of thought that that's what was happening, and that's how things were playing out. But And the reality is that that shit never stopped. If anything, we have cycles of people getting emboldened to do it more. Depending on who's like who's in charge, who the president is, what the state's doing, what the rhetoric is, who's the minority to blame for problems. Let me get my chat up here. That's why I print my shit out now, so I can actually look at chat while I look at my notes. I make sure I'm actually streaming. That's a good point too. Who's in charge? All right. Cool. Yeah, none of that shit stopped. Let me get my notes up here now. I had some extra notes I put at the end here. If anything, the most that happened is that it was no longer as headline worthy when it came to kids getting bullied and bullied to death. Not in like the YouTube sphere, at least. Maybe like the local news areas, but not so much international news that much. Probably because a lot of people became wary of the fact that it would in turn draw even more negative attention to the victim when the news media starts making a spectacle of it. Rather, they draw more attention to it, and then people in turn make more of a spectacle of it. I mean, right now I can only imagine how many people are just getting singled out just for being weird and different still in grade schools. Especially when they latch on to things that aren't happening, like the whole furry incidents that were going on in school. Remember those? It's not like... Remember when the announcement came that it was just all over? Oh yeah, that never happened either. It just sort of stopped. It became passé to talk about. That window to try to persecute trans people by saying there's a bunch of furries walking around identifying as cats. To the point where, I kid you not, one of the stories being passed around, a grown-ass adult who was a multimillionaire running a evangelical show, and he said, quote, I heard in one school district there's a teacher who identifies as a cat, and he has a litter box, and he goes to the bathroom in front of all the students, and this is happening right now in public schools. I have a friend who sent his daughter to elementary school the first time like a year ago, and he had explained to his aunt and uncle that no, they do not have litter boxes in the classrooms. Just boggles me. Like, who's buying this shit? Who? Obviously, it's no one's fucking internet savvy in any way. Everyday people, I guess, who don't know how to computer still. Outside of Facebook and email. So yeah, that shit never stopped. Despite us... me naively thinking that it somehow did, because like it was like a reflection of, you know, the current attitude of us being older and more mature. And it wasn't until a couple years ago that I realized what I have is PTSD from grade school. You know, despite seeing movies about it, read up in articles, hearing other people who have it, think, oh, that's what I have? The 1,000-yard stare. It's just, you know, one of those things where there's a spectrum of it, right? It's not just all on or off. But yeah, reliving scenarios over and over again in your head, having them play out differently or violently each time in your favor. Again and again, the same scenarios. Stuff you never forget. Stuff that I'm sure those who perpetrated it have long since forgotten. Because they weren't the focal point of it. Yeah, when I made that video called My Inner Demons, I kind of, that was kind of my therapy without realizing it. But since then, it's been, well, it's not gone, but it's definitely been quelled. I do realize I do have triggering moments when I see certain events happen in the real world. Especially when it involves something like a person getting victimized for something they didn't do. Like trying to run over an ICE agent with their car and then getting shot in the face because they were told to move and they moved. Or, just the fact that, if ICE wasn't there, that very person that I'm referring to would still be alive. Shit like that. And then you hear the comments people make, and they're insufferable. And it's like, man, why couldn't that have been you instead? Might change your mind. Someone you know, right? Might go, wait a minute. I know Bob. He would never do something that would provoke a law officer to shoot him in the face. I would love to see some of these people just like... Well, maybe I wouldn't want to see them do that, because... But, I wish some of these people would think that way. Just, like, talk to the families to see how the... face-to-face, I mean. Not in some fucking safe space on the internet. I want to see if they have the fucking goal to say it to their face. Your mother, your sister, daughter, aunt, whatever. She deserved to die. Because she got a little too close to an ICE agent with their vehicle, and this guy had PTSD from other vehicles, and therefore that's what makes it okay for him to murder people. They should have kept that guy away from vehicles for a good... forever. But anyways, I'm kind of delaying the inevitable here. I figure I should probably lay this all out in this form at least, because I did write a lot of it in a journal, or I guess, I don't know, document, whatever. So when I do, I still have a good memory of all of it. So the thing that kind of set me up for this little, these incidents down the road, is the fact that all my friends moved away. I had several friends that were within the same grade as me. Some didn't really call to hang out. And, like, I would just wait for them to call me. I'm like, well, if they want to hang out, they can call me. And then, they never did. And then the other a couple of friends I had just moved away. Apparently a half-hour drive was just too far to ever, like, hang out with them outside of maybe, like, once or twice a year. This is hilarious to me because I make almost a half-hour drive every day to work, but hey. Alright, this is all cleaned up as best I can. So yeah, I didn't have any real friends at this point in my grade. I had one outside. That's about it. So, it started at second grade. I was reading a book about the sun. And I was getting, like, excited about the little factoids I was reading about. The sun's, like, a bajillion degrees hot, or whatever the fuck. And I was, like, running up to the teacher, like, oh, did you know the sun is this? Did you know the sun is that? And the teacher would be, like, reassuring, right? Because she's a teacher, a second grade teacher. She's like, oh, wow, yeah, that's real neat, Andy. Yeah. And all of a sudden, this one kid next to me is like, you're stupid. It's like, you're really stupid. And I'm just like, no, I'm not. Like, this is real true second grade shit here, right? No, you're stupid. He was like really mad at me. For, I don't know what. Just for doing that, I guess. talking to the teacher. Yeah, keep in mind, it's just a simple, your typical, stereotypical, quiet kid. And so, yeah, he made it a routine to kick my ass after every school day, almost. During the days I wasn't able to run away fast enough. It just came on and on again, off again kind of thing. And there was just two students all together, and they were singling me out. Didn't want to be a tattletale, so I didn't say anything about it. But whatever. I was more focused on just getting through the damn day so I can go home and watch Looney Tunes. Yeah, there was one time I fought back against him. Like, I kicked him in the shin from behind. And then he just turned around and just overpowered me. So, you know, that didn't work out. I mean, I would tell a kid at this point, you know, just do what you need to do to not be someone to fuck with. It's not about winning. Just, you know, take advantage of an opportunity because they have to turn their back at some point. Just don't kill them. Or injure them too badly. Just, you know, you gotta hurt them real bad. Because school, public school, or private school, whatever school you're in, it's just like prison. You're forced to interact with a bunch of people that you otherwise probably never interact with. Just be someone that you're not supposed to get fucked, you know, that's not worth fucking with. Hey, what's up? Ah, shit. I gotta fix that. Hold on. I knew I forgot something. Fix my chat here. The guy is here. Where was I? Pop out chat. Get the URL. The guy is here. Where was I? Paste URL. There we go. And now chat's there. Get the URL. Yeah. Don't double up. Thank you. There we go. Yeah. But yeah, that's just how shit happened in the second grade, and the third grade is kind of the same person. We just call him Frank. Well, actually, no, if I keep calling everyone Frank, it's gonna get a little confusing. We'll just call him, Frank. Alright, what do I do with this shit here? Masking fluid, virtue reactions, blah, 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 blah. I mix this with water. No, doesn't say anything like that. Fine, I just have to shake it up and pour it out somewhere. So third grade wasn't too bad. Still a silent kid there. Again, just, you know, focused on getting home. Putting my head down, trying to get through the stupid school day. It was bored out of your mind. And it's kind of sad. Like, I think of, like, all the field trips you used to do. Science centers. Greenfield Village in Michigan there. It's like a museum area. And I have more memories of, like, the incidents I suffered in elementary school than I do any of those places we went to. So I was pretty insulated, though, when it came to my outside friends, because I had 2 friends. One was at church. One went to a different school entirely. Our moms just happened to be friends with each other at some point, so that's how we got connected. So I was able to keep all that shit going on away from them. As 4th grade happened, and then I had the incident, the defining incident of who I was going to be, of who I was, I guess. You know, you get sick during recess, it's a hot day, you're dressed a little too warmly, puke in the middle of the classroom in front of everybody as everyone's getting out of the class, and that's it. Pariah. So there's the jump forward here a little bit. Like I would have people that ragged on me so much up into the point where even high school was hitting, and the same people were ragging on me. And I remember one girl who became my best friend at the time in high school. She became his girlfriend. Call her L. And my former best friend asked L, like, why do you hate Andy so much? And she just like, she couldn't come up with anything outside of like the typical surface level, like, oh, because he's stupid kind of shit. Like, forgot the entire reason, whatever that was. But yeah, it was just like constant belittlement. It's like, you can't just like pick out like certain words or certain phrases you're called. It's just like, it's all the things little things that add up. You know, I had a Genesis. That was grounds. I said I liked Power Rangers. That was grounds for ridicule. This is 4th grade still. Yeah, just constant belittlement, beratement, saying I didn't give a shit about sports or brand name clothing. That was grounds. You know, and it just kept, you know, it got so relentless that I just became more insulated than I ever was. You know, despite having a couple friends on the outside, I had one friend that was in the same grade, but he got some brunt of the ridicule, so he just turned on me. He literally said that, like, I remember one antagonist I had, Jimmy. He came up to him, and just started running his mouth in his ear. He's like, "Andy's a fucking idiot," and he's like, and he started saying all these phrases, and my friend at the time is like, "Yes, I know." And then he stopped and just like left him alone. And then yeah, my former friend at the time in elementary school joined in. I had another person and like that would invite me to his house, and we hung out and played like Sonic CD. Played pretend. I guess you know a way to say it other than yeah, we played pretend. We played Boxcar Children Adventures or some shit based on some novel we read in school. I'm figuring out what the fuck to do with this mask and shit. Alright, where do I put this? I guess I can just put this here. Let's clean up this spot. Alright. Paper towel. Yeah, and I got to the point where I just figured, like, how to describe it? I guess kind of like solitary confinement, where all you're doing is just going home. You're not talking to your parents. You're not telling them, like, how your day was or what happened. You're just like, yeah, it's fine. What happened? Nothing. What'd you learn today? Nothing. You know, sit in your room, watching TV. It's kind of like solitary when you're just, like, sitting alone with your own thoughts. Especially when you, like, run out of programs that you like to watch and get bored. That's to the point where you get paranoid delusions, thinking like somehow the kids are like watching you, so you deny yourself things that you like. Like I still like Power Rangers, but you know, you had to go around pretending that you didn't. So I refused to watch it anymore, just based on that. You know, kept anything I liked to myself at that point. Pretend whenever you need to. And I remember at one point, like, I thought fucking God was pre-punishing me. Like, I thought God was, like, punishing me for things I would do in the future. I was thinking to myself, oh, man, maybe I'm just going to become a serial killer one of these days, and this is God's, like, punishing me pre-murder. Maybe that's what's going to happen to me. Maybe that's what I want to become because of this. And that's why it's happening. Or, you know, maybe it's because, you know, back when I was even younger, you know, playing doctor. Maybe that's why he's punishing me. And it blew me away when I was watching this show on Adult Swim years later called More Oral. And there's just a little snippet where in season 3 where they talk about pre-punishment. They talk about all these horrible incidents that happened to their town, like zombies, fire, and they're talking about this because they were in the middle of singing a blasphemous song that Moral, the main character, inspired them to sing. And the pastors bring up all these past incidents that happened before the song. And one of the characters is like, "Yeah, but that's before we sang that blasphemous song." And the pastor says, "Like, don't you think he knows all things before and when before they happen?" And it's like that right there got to me. The idea of pre-punishment. It's like, holy shit. Yep. Dino Stantilopoulos knows. Sorry, I butchered his name there. Side note, same thing happened one of the episodes too, where they talked about like old people suffering in like nursing homes and on the deathbeds and shit. Said, oh yeah, maybe they were a loose woman when they were growing up, you know, and when they're younger. And it's like, damn. Yep. People I knew in the church thought like that too. At least when we were younger. I don't know if a lot of older people think that way too. Like you're suffering in like nursing homes because, you know, your past sins, and now it's like coming your comeuppance, I guess. Alright, let's get these fireworks. Guess the areas are not supposed to have any paint. So yeah, I thought there was pre-punishment involved. Yeah, I got lucky. Oh yeah, I had a constant fear of death. So, you know, as you start developing as a preteen in 5th grade and shit, you have some, you know, you start having your little boyhood fantasies. It doesn't matter what they are, really, for anyone listening. Doesn't matter how mundane or extreme, really, because what goes on in your head is your own fucking business. But nonetheless, you know, you think that's part of the punishment. Like, oh shit, I'm thinking bad thoughts, thinking impure thoughts. And ironically, of course, when you're like afraid of hell because of your impure thoughts, all it does is create a doom loop where you're thinking about those impure thoughts again and again and again, and just reinforcing them. It's kind of like how people who go to ex-gay therapy say they come out even more gay than they were before. Kind of like that. You know, shame does nothing other than reinforce the shameful thing. That's why you have all these fucking transphobes running around right now. All these guys, mainly guys, jerking off to trans people, and then having a bunch of post-nut guilt, and then making it everyone else's problem. That's why you have people like Tucker Carlson coming out and saying, porn makes you gay, porn makes you trans. A fucking multimillionaire being paid to dispute shit like that. Talking like a fucking teenager who's still in the closet and in denial of their own goddamn queerness. Seems like a lot of people who watch porn turn gay, if not trans. It's like, okay, Tucker, we get it. You find trans people hot and you're probably gay. Or bi. And you're in denial. You and Nick Fuentes probably had a fucking blowy in the back room. And you had your post-nut guilt phase. And that's why you had your falling out. In my opinion. Allegedly. That's what I think happened, though. In my opinion. Allegedly. Hey, lol. Local icon. Hello. I don't know when you walked in on, but hey. So yeah, back to, you know, grade school though. You know, you're in the process of denying yourself things that you enjoy, thinking that God's punishing you for things you didn't even do yet, or have or maybe do in the future. It's constantly like hoping for the end times. Like when fucking Y2K was happening and there was all that panic buying, and like, oh man, I know it's probably not going to be real, but I wish it was. I hope it is. When is the fucking revelation going to happen? When am I going to get called, you know, off this fucking planet? Of course, that didn't happen. Start losing all your ambitions too. Thinking like, you know, it's not even like, it wasn't even like my parents were even like enforcing this shit on me either. It's mainly just the church and your surrounding environment and society. Thinking like, okay, I have to get a wife. I have to get kids. I have to work a decent enough job to make a living, and just, you know, work that cycle forever. And like, I was also a Puritan, definitely in high school. When it came to like my friends' relationships and shit, and their one-night stands. Of course, it's easy. It's easy to be that way when you're not getting any. It's easy to be a fucking Puritan when no one's like, you know, no one's getting on your dick. You know, berate your friends like, oh, why'd you do that with that girl? Why'd you do that one-night stand? You don't even love her. Sex is supposed to be special. Even to the point where I had my first girlfriend, 19, when we started having sex, I was just... Afterwards, of course, you know, that post-nut guilt happened. Oh, I'm having sex before marriage. Oh, no, I'm not supposed to be doing this. This isn't right. No. Why? Wasting all this energy, all this fucking time. For nothing. For a fucking lie. So you can imagine when I figured out that all that shit was bullshit. It come when I was 22, like I was a little... I'm still pissed about it. Alright, I think we got the fireworks laid out here. I think so. I have a lot more masking than I think I needed. I guess I'll find out when I get there. I can always paint over it with white. Just want like 3 big fireworks here. Red and blue. Or maybe just like various reds and purples, I think, to like have like an outline of the color. And then we'll fill in the real colors first. Fill in the regular colors of the buildings and everything, and then the figures on top. And then we'll do the lighting effect. That way I can, because with watercolor you can always just paint over everything and reactivate it with water. So right now I'm just going to let that dry, and this brush is now ruined. Because that's what the latex shit does to it. I think. I could probably get it off. Probably should have picked a smaller brush, but whatever. This is just some cheap shit I have. Alright. So yeah, becoming over your stupid shame when I was like 20. That was the first step. Stop wasting my time, guilting myself over normal fucking desires and thoughts. Or rather harmless ones at that too, because I'm sorry, the thought crime's not a real thing. Unless you're a fucking Nazi, I guess. Or just religious. So that was the first step. Second step was just realizing there's no fucking God. Yeah, it's just much of my frustration too. It's just like seeing all these people hang on to like useless garbage when it comes to traditions. It's like, why the fuck are you still doing this shit? But yeah, I almost went down that route. Like my first girlfriend, I could have, despite my insecurities at the time, I could have just went and married her, had kids, pick up some fucking engineering job, put my head down, just deal with whatever problems arise. You know, and use God as a fucking crutch. And just be like every fucking stereotype guy out there who makes fucking I hate my wife jokes. Yeah, if anyone ever figures out who my girlfriend was, you know, nothing, no problems on her. It was all on me. So, you know, I had my own shit to deal with. Nothing she did was incorrect in any way. And even if it was, it's like, whatever, it's not me. It's not my fucking, it wasn't my fucking problem to deal with. I can't put any of my shortcomings. My point is, I'm not putting any of my shortcomings on her. That's what I'm trying to get at. Alright, I think we got this down. But yeah, like during this whole time though, up until, you know, my early 20s, even a little bit after, all these nights, you know, of being guilty or my little sexual proclivities, reliving the same elementary school trauma over and over again, because like the bullying was relentless from 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, and then again thinking it was a starting over point for middle school, 7th grade, 8th grade, and then it started up again in 9th grade when I started high school, and that was almost like a fucking tipping point. That's when I was like writing the whole cringy journal about, you know, murdering people and getting revenge on people and seeing how pointless everything is and like why is this shit happening and, you know, all that stuff. And, you know, thankfully I just happened to have the right friends at the time who would push me to school events despite me not wanting to go there, to like dances, you know, the rallies and shit. Like I just wanted to sit home and play Diablo 2, but no, I managed to make the right friend. You know, I'll just call him D. And like he forced me to be more sociable because he kind of like saw the importance of our futures to like better ourselves in terms of looks, you know, future prospects, ambitions, all that shit. And so yeah, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be anywhere near where I am right now. And I do see alternate versions of myself in a lot of people. What could have been if I just sulked away and never opened myself up, never came out of my shell. And I'm not like trying to belittle them or anything in that regard. Shit happens, shit happens. There's one thing I want to make a video on eventually. And I was just watching this documentary called R. Crumb. Early 90s documentary. It's about the artist R. Crumb, who's an underground artist. He's famous for several things. Fritz the Cat, the phrase "keep on trucking," and the series of underground, well, I think that's it, actually. But he had a series of underground comics. Like, him and a bunch of other people were making these comics despite the censorship, the self-censorship of the industry, and just, you know, selling them out themselves, distributing, publishing themselves, and that shit throughout the 70s. You know, made very little money. The reason why the documentary got made is because he came into a fortune simply because some collector wanted to buy his sketchbooks for a couple $100,000 at the time in the early 90s. And this allowed him and his wife and I guess daughter, which I didn't know he had until recently, they moved out to France. But the one focus I want to make like an essay on is his older brother. His older brother was also an artist, and not too long after R. Crumb moved to France, his older brother committed suicide. And there's a little bit of focus on the little, older brother here and there throughout the documentary. But the thing that kind of like nailed, really hit me hard, was the fact that here's a guy in his almost senior years now, living with his mother. Never had any big achievements as an artist himself. Period. No one bought his sketchbooks for a couple hundred grand, or made a movie based on one of his characters. And it's like, wow, it's real unfortunate. Like, this guy was such a failure to launch. And I guess there could be multiple reasons why that happens. But the kind of like pivotal moment for me was near the end of the movie, when R. Crumb's older brother confessed to him that back when they were kids, keep in mind this is when they were kids, they used to play games together. And one of the shows or movies they liked was from Disney called Treasure Island. And they like to play like Treasure Island. They go on a little backyard adventure kind of thing. And R. Crumb's older brother said the reason why he liked doing that so much and playing those games in that movie, is because he was in love with the male lead in that movie, the male boy lead. Now, again, not in a pedophilic sense, because they were both kids at the time, but that was like an aha moment. Oh God, he's fucking gay. His older brother's gay, and he was so like distraught and self-loathing about it that he never fucking did anything with himself, because it was just like weighing him down so much. And like that right there I can fucking relate to, because I look back in all those years, fighting with myself, fighting with my subconscious, I guess, I don't know, trying to will away certain things about me that are just benign, really. And like realizing just like how much of a weight that was mentally and holding me back. To the point where there's all these key moments where, like, if I didn't come out of my shell and go to my first convention, which was also pushed for my former best friend, if I didn't go to the first furry con, if I didn't take the risk of exposing myself again to the public, in this case in a more grander sense in the internet, I guess I got really fucking lucky, right? I was never thrusted into fame. I never had anything that I said 20 years ago brought up as a moment of being like harassed. I wouldn't know how to exactly handle that back then, probably. If I didn't take the plunge and move out of my parents' house, I could end up like R. Crumb's older brother, still living with my parents, not knowing what the fuck to do with myself. Not knowing who to talk to, or who I can talk to, or who I can trust. Yeah, that was just a sad moment in that movie. It's like the loss. It's like it's truly like a lost potential. Like, what could have his older brother been as an artist if he wasn't? I guess I am imposing and projecting a little bit, but they grew up in an era where fucking being gay was enough to get you fired and blacklisted from almost everywhere, including your family. So like, what kind of artist could have R. Crumb's older brother ended up being if he wasn't so fucking like self-loathing about himself? Would he gotten hired in like a studio? Would he gotten some big freelancing jobs? Because that's what I think happened. Is just got too hung up on himself and his insecurities and not getting over it. I think it's going to be my other next little essay after I'm done with this Plague Dogs one I'm working on right now. Speed got turned into Wish I Knew. Yep, okay, I read that right. Speed got turned into Wish I Knew. Okay. Alright, I think this masking shit's done. Alright, where to start with this fucking shit here? Well, I got my reference here to help me. What is this water? So we have a bunch of like red reflecting on there, but also kind of like a lot of white stripes. Depending on where the that's where the this is where the launches are going up here, so that's why we see that. Mostly like the colors are reflecting off of fireworks in the water here. So we're gonna try to recreate that while that dries and settles. Make sure I don't use this one on accident. This Frisket marker, this Frisket pen. Wow, this Frisket paintbrush. There we go. That's what we'll call it. Call it my garbage brush. So I'm pretty sure I'll be using it in the future for other things. Yeah, let's just wrap some tape around it. Kind of want to make the paint the figures last, because I figure those are in the foreground. Those are the main subject. I have like the perspective going in on the diamond reindeer. Gotta keep that in mind too. So pretty much painting everything else other than that. So the question is, what do I do then? I guess I just start with fucking darker colors. Just paint it like everything is like it would be at night. And leave it at that. Yeah, what else is there to say, you know? Like, I remember, like, a lot of the incidents, too, you know? You know, bullying incidents. That, again, other people I don't remember. I didn't even know the names of some of the people that were coming after me. And really, I just ended up lost in my own world. For better or for worse. But yeah, that's pretty much what I would do. So, you know, I had two friends, again, on the outside of school that I hang out with, and I would keep all that shit away from them. They wouldn't know anything that was going on. If they did, they would have fucking, they would have jumped in and helped me. That's what's funny about it. If they would have jumped in and showed up with me in school, just like fight people, even if I just like, probably if I even just didn't do anything, they'd probably just been like, you need to jump in there, Andy, like, you need to get in there. Hey, you know, it's like anything else, you get used to it, but hey, whatever, that didn't happen. Good times. But yeah, like every little thing that you could be made fun of was just being used on me. Like the way I talked, the way I walked, the things I liked, the things I didn't like, things I probably liked, things I thought they liked, that I liked. I remember in middle school, like one kid I was just sitting there, and we're in the library. People were just gathered around, and then this one kid just turns to me. He's like, "Yeah, you're probably a faggot." Yeah, I know this kid's probably a faggot. Like, huh? You know, like, you know, breaking out of my daydream. Like, huh? And yeah, yep, I was the subject for a lot of classes in middle school from then on. Not sure if that's exactly how it started, but that's the most noteworthy incident I remember. Still remember. Alright, how to approach this shit. And now this is, you know, when some morons like, you said the slur. You said the slur. It's like, oh yeah, everything else I said wasn't bad, but you know, the fact I said a slur. That's the real problem here. Yeah, it is wild to think that, you know, people just don't think that shit still goes on in the same way. Alright, let's do... I guess we just do some of these bushes here. Start. We'll need a bigger brush for that. Let's see. Not that small. Wait, I have shit right here. This'll do. I don't know, let's get a test. We can test on, make sure I'm not putting too much water or too little. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Mix and paint, mix and paint, mix and paint. Yeah, so like, yeah, long after high school and going into college, like a lot of that shit was still carrying with me, and now I have like these little mental fits. Well, I had to have all kinds of mental fits by myself in elementary school. Basically, just to describe it, is like you're running around in your own room, alone by yourself, reliving those moments again and again, or thinking other things, like other horrible things. Almost like driving yourself nutty. And then, you know, when I was in college, I started, you know, reliving those scenarios again and again, just wasting countless amounts of energy and time, you know, rethinking it and being upset over it. And that like went on up until like my early 30s. When I was at work one day, a couple of coworkers were talking about having trouble with their own kids, having similar incidents at school, and that like triggered something in me. So I went home and yet again like reliving these same scenarios. And it was that very night that I just got completely and utterly sick of it. Because I was like in the darkness, you know, my husbands were asleep, and here I am reliving something that happened fucking over 20 years ago at this point. And I just had like a little bit of a breakdown. I'm like, why the fuck is this shit still coming up? All these years later, why am I still thinking about this? And so I wrote that video that I have on here called My Inner Demons. And that became like my therapy. And I haven't really had anything like that since. I mean, it's there, I remember it. But it doesn't stop me in my tracks anymore. I'm able to catch it now a lot better. But yeah, it was just fucking bad. Bad and annoying. Cause like when I would snap out of it, I'm like, God fucking damn it. What the fuck am I thinking about this? But I think it's just like as you get older, it just starts weighing things down more and more. You think you get less, but no. It hits more because you're just like that fucking tired of it. It's like, how do I shut this shit off? So, you know, I have my own little private, you know, session.
Katie?
Yes.
Need help with this.
I'll be right back. Still on sign it? You could split it.
I'm up here.
So you can't get this wet.
No, no, here is gonna run under water, hot water.
Okay.
No, I don't know. I don't know how to get seen that alone. The last time I looked at it was I don't know. Like, I don't have my phone with me. Here, find my phone. I can use the swap from it. Got the areas, which is social media.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what's correct. That's exactly what I was doing.
Okay. You're right. Sorry about that. I just had to make clean up an incident. All right. What should we do about this walkway here? Ay, ay, ay. I hate to do this, but I'm probably gonna have to just call it for now. Nah, you know what? We can do some other things here. I want to get this whole walkway area. Let's at least get a big portion of things done here. Let's get at least one of the bigger portions here, because we start trying to get this damn commission done before Anthrocon happens. Kind of defeats the purpose of it being a surprise. No, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? Where's my shit? Where's my references? I know I have like a whole crinkled up reference somewhere. There it is. Kind of like a tan shit going on there. So let's do this here before we're done. Alright. Yeah, way too brown. So we're gonna put some. How else do you make tan other than white? Yellow? Guess we can do that. Yeah, need more white. Need to just absorb this area here. There we go. Yeah, it's more like a white and yellow. Alright, squirt some water in this pan here. Alright. There, it's getting closer to what it is. So I feel like we need more water. Yeah, it's definitely more white than yellow. Okay, I feel like we got the shade of brown going here. Problem is here too is I just don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Alright, this could be thickened up. But whatever. It's just a relatively thin layer. That's fine. Alright, let's move back over here. Yeah, so what else is there to say about my, you know, grade school PTSD? It's just, well, I got lucky, I guess. I got lucky that I didn't, succumb to my cringy, self-aggrandizing mindset. Because that's the general theme with a lot of these kids that do these, like, mass shooting events or whatever, right? They think they're so special, they think they got it all figured out. Or they think the world's doomed and there's nothing they can do about it other than try to draw attention to it by making some grand stand. Which in the end, it just comes off as cringy isolationist bullshit. It's like, wow, you thought you were so special. And that was another key factor for me. Just realizing, like, oh, I'm not that unique. And you realize you're not that unique. Or not unique at all, really. You just have, like, an experience not everyone gets. They grow up in grade school. But, that helps. Helps to ground you a little bit. And again, I got lucky with the friends I made. Because what's funny is that despite my social status, I still had it in my head, like, this is probably a good idea to not get too lost up in things like anime and Magic the Gathering. And I should just, I don't know, focus on other future things, despite how many video games I was playing and how many hours of video games I was playing. But I got pushed. I got pulled along to certain social events I didn't want to go to. And it helped me. I mean, it was like, it's one of the things, like, you're doing things you don't want to do, but you do them anyways. And then you're, like, grateful that you did those things. Because it wasn't like going to a school dance would, kill you. Talking to some new people and realizing, like, especially later in high school. Because later in high school, that's when empathy... Oh, shit, that was supposed to be water. Whoopsies. No, that's always fixable in watercolor. Because in high school, people start getting more chill. They learn empathy. And they stop being pricks, for the most part. Kind of like, you don't fuck with anyone, they don't fuck with you. And that was kind of the general attitude by the end of high school. I don't know if it was like that for all the openly gay kids. The two that we had. Yeah, I had a lot of issues to get over still. Being religious, all the self-doubt, not knowing what to do with myself when I hit college. Constantly wondering, oh, should I do writing? Should I do art? Can I do art? Should I do art? And, I have no idea how to describe my art career. I'm watching all these people, these YouTubers who had careers in Pixar and Disney that they left because they couldn't they got sick of their bullshit, and they run their own YouTube channels doing advice and teaching. And me, I was just kind of always just doing my own thing. Back in the high school days, I would just post on art sites, not wanting any kind of attention or notice. And when I got a taste of it in 2009, I don't want it to stop. And I don't want to stop. So, despite my lack of notoriety, despite my lack of attention, it is kind of hilarious that I managed to, like, outlast all these bigger YouTubers. And I don't mean like they quit and moved on to do other things. I mean like outlast them in terms of like stagnation. I don't want to name names right now because some come in my mind, but I'm pretty sure there's others that people can think of when they hear me talk about this. Like, people just like never evolved their creativity at all in terms of video making and artwork or whatever, and just completely stagnated. And you see them falling off in terms of like their, I don't know, prestige on the online entertainment sphere, because the audiences are fickle, or they go down like weird self-destructive paths. As far as I'm concerned, they're self-destructive. When you go from, like, take one guy who used to review medieval weaponry, right? And he decided he was going to go from that to talking about the woke mind virus all the fucking time when it comes to pop culture. and the culture war bullshit. And like ever since then, he like lost respect from his brother. He lost respect from his fans that he had, and just the overall scene in general. And all for what? To pander to some audience that wouldn't give a shit if he was on fire. You know, they wouldn't piss on him if he was on fire. They just want to their viewpoints, their conclusion they already came to, just reaffirmed by whoever. And now if this guy stops where he is, you know, that same audience will just, you know, fucking write him off or whatever. I don't know. I just can't. I can't imagine unironically talking about something like the Mario Brothers movie outside of just like a general critique, right? But talking about it like it's a fucking culture war issue, that it's somehow tied to the well-being of people everyday life and living. Are you fucking for real? So yeah, that Shadiversity guy. That's one that comes to mind. I know there's plenty of others, but he just seems to be the most prominent right now in terms of like people shitting on, I guess. Just like never fucking like, I don't know, just like never fucking better himself. Never got curious about things like history, sciences, like psychology. Instead, he just wants to cater to some fucking, as an Australian too, wants to cater to some Western Christian nationalist idea. It's just so fucking weird. Seeing people have like these ideas that I long since got over in my own head a long time ago. These stupid fucking ideas. Like, man, I used to think like that when I was 15. And here we go, having guys that are older than me saying this kind of stupid shit you're in fucking high school. Despite how big their audiences are, like, some of these guys have like millions of subs. But it seems like the donations are a little dry. You know what I mean? Almost like they're almost catering and primarily entertaining children. Who generally have the understanding depth of a fucking puddle. It's a fucking joke. Eventually I'll release this members only video I have, but for now it's just gonna be members only. So I want to work on other projects and have things lined up, so I don't just have nothing. But you know, I think of a lot of these people too, and I always have in mind like what's the future gonna look like? What's the quartering gonna look like when he's like in his 50s? What's Asmongold going to look like if he lives to 50? Yeah, these fucking incurious fucking weirdos don't question anything around them. You don't see anything beyond their fucking nose in terms of life experience and validity. Complete and utter, proudly in some cases, just utter lack of empathy for other people's concerns and sufferings. Like, I don't know. How do you go about that? Like, while these people were fucking ranting about the Lord of the fucking Rings Amazon series that no one was watching in the first place, no one I know was watching, and even if they were, the few people I know that were watching it were liking it. So, the videos these people were making were not for them, that's for sure. And I don't think they care to hear it. I don't think they need some online chud to try to convince them they don't like a show they like. But I don't know. It's just like while they're doing that shit, I'm getting curious about like how the world around me works, right? And I'm pretty sure a lot of other people are too. That's why I don't watch these people. That's why their audience is primarily kids to begin with. I'm not trying to say I'm special here or I'm smart. I just got curious and started reading a bunch of shit. You know, the only what's the number? The three things I want to tell my nephews and other future family members is three most important things because you know they gotta have three. It's a marketing gimmick to have like three at least. Right? You can't just have two. Fuck two. Give me at least three. And from three go to from 3 to 5 and 5 to 10, etc. Three things that I think are primary. The primary importance to like development, self-development is just like thinking for yourself, thinking critically, and accepting the fact that you don't know anything. Right? People want to act like they fucking know it all when it comes to goddamn social issues all the time, or what it's like to be black, or what it's like to be gay, or what your attitude should be if you're gay. And they're under the impression that white men are under attack because some fucking gay guy is in a fucking video game. It's like, what the fuck is this nonsense? They think they're oppressed because there's some other representation other than themselves for a change? Acting like the past 100 years worth of movies and video games don't exist? This comes off as fucking sad. That's what it does. Hey guys, it's Asmongold. Asmongold. FSCM is getting me today. What was I going to get into? Oh, yes. So, like, like when you have a problem with your teeth, you go to a dentist. Because in all likelihood, a dentist is going to know what's wrong with your teeth versus a mechanic. You want to learn about a subject that's beyond you, whether it's trans, the phrase toxic masculinity, other phrases such as privilege, what those really are, what critical race theory really is. You don't go on fucking the internet and look for talking heads that clearly have some kind of bias and reassure your preconceived assumptions and conclusions. You go to people that actually make it their fucking study. You look up actual works of study people put together, and if it disturbs you reading it, if you don't like it, well then I don't know what to tell you other than maybe you should do some self-reflection. Like, why does it bother you so much? Like if the description of toxic masculinity and what those are, what that is really, if it doesn't reflect on you, then you should have no fucking reaction to it. I'll just use that as an example right now before I go. So yeah, all toxic masculinity is just certain behaviors that are associated with being a man that are often detrimental to the person, whether it's the targeted female or the male themselves. Example, you're not a man unless you get laid before you're 18. You're not a man unless you keep your bitch in line. You're not a man unless you're making the most money. You're not a man, etc., etc. Things that might cause you undeserved mental anguish. Like, what if you are not making as much money as your wife or your boyfriend or whatever? What? You less of a human fucking being all of a sudden? You less than a man? Give me what the fuck is that? That's all it is. That's all it means. That's all it refers to. But then, bad actors get a hold of it and they start making up shit that no one's saying. They're saying being male's toxic. They're saying being masculine's toxic. Who said that? Oh, this random Twitter user you found? That's cool. You got like you got a serious person that said that? You got like a study, an actual study, like a published study. What it actually means. And granted, there's a lot of annoying shit out there. There's a lot of annoying sex negative based conservative and feminism bullshit. Where it's like you're not allowed to objectify anything or anyone. Which doesn't make any fucking sense, because there's no way to stop any of that. I objectify cartoon characters. You know, is that gonna lead to normalizing of rape? Get fucking real. Let's see here. A little bit blue here. Yeah, this is very thin. But we'll deal. I realize there's supposed to be like a little bit of an awning hang over here, but that's fine. It's all good. But what I want to do is darken some of this, some shadow in this walkway here. So I think that's just blue. It's cute. I do not want to add black. I just want to add some blue. Yeah, that's definitely blue. But it's a little chunky. Yeah, that's the key thing about these watercolors. I guess any watercolors I found out you can just reactivate with water, so you just let it dry. Just I think is kind of neat. Kind of handy compared to acrylic in that sense. Of course, I learned too that what I'm doing here, having like cross hatching and very precise, well, somewhat precise like ink work is actually not often combined with watercolor. It's usually combined with just other inks or just digital coloring. And I don't want to do digital coloring, not for stuff like this, not for, especially for my like future books I wanted to make and shit. Definitely don't want to do that. All right, have some shadows there, shadow areas there. Definitely around these areas here. And this gives it a little more depth. And when I get this done, we can figure out the when I get the first layers done, then I'll start working on the firework areas. And get the sky in place here too. And get some of these buildings in here. And get some of that water off. Yeah, the other kind of reassuring thing I learned today too is just like when it comes to like a lot of this art, especially the comic book art, graphic novels, like you're not looking to do precise one-for-one recreation of like realism. Because like people would just, because you could just say, yeah, just take a picture then at that point. Yeah, I kind of vibe with that when I heard that today. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. All right.
Yeah. Come on, Boopies, let's go.
This is turning out good. Oh yeah. kind of funny. It took some nerve to talk about a heavy topic like this, but all in all, I'm glad I did. Just helped me lay out my history here. It sucks because I gotta go to bed soon, and you don't want to go to bed. You want to work on other things. I do want darker areas here. Bushes. Kind of like a dark brown here in the back. Of course, that's just going to get lit up with we do the fireworks display. Now, I guess another thing I could bring up too is just like how much of a chain it is. Like when you're like the subject of ridicule from your peers, you think like that shit becomes normalized to the point where you start laying it on other people. You think like you would like unite with other nerds like you see in like a movie or shit. Like, oh yeah, we're the Sasquatch gang or whatever the fuck. We're the Buttercream gang. But no. When you're isolated and alone, you start noticing the hierarchy with other people too, and you just jump in whenever you have the chance to like be part of the crowd for the moment. Just for the moment though, before they turn their eyes back on you. Because you're young, you're a kid, you're still trying to figure shit out. You don't know any better about this stuff. Like I remember one kid in elementary school, he would just scream. Like he wouldn't be able to communicate verbally. He was definitely autistic, which I didn't know anything about. I didn't even know what that was until I was in high school. Like I never even heard the fucking word autistic. At least I recognized until then. But like I remember kids were like throwing sticks at him, you know? And I would join in. It's like, oh, okay. Looks like someone else is the target today. This is just a normal thing. This is just what happens at school. And yeah, he wouldn't even verbalize. He wouldn't verbalize like, no, stop that. No, he would just like scream and like act, by no other standard other than like, oh, he's acting weird. It's like, yeah, he's not fucking fit because he's probably low functioning autistic and needs a fucking counselor. Why is he being thrown around with a bunch of elementary school kids that don't even know the fucking definition of empathy yet? All right. Oh, someone said something. Hold on. Yep. Oh, this is a stream. Hey there. Hey. Hey, XP. Well, gotta go. No, I'm just fucking with you. You have to go in a minute, though. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, things did change. Oh, yeah, and you also become... I forgot about that part. You also become a bully at home, too, so it's just like a feedback loop. There was times I told my parents. I told my mom first couple times it happened, and 4th grade. And, you know, that didn't help. Just made her cry. Made me feel like shit for making her cry. And the principal tried to berate them, like, "Oh, you guys are cowards," gaining up on them. But you know, you get enough incidents called in, and then they start blaming you, realizing, oh, it's you again. You know, what are you doing that you're causing like these kids to hate you so much? You gotta be doing something. You know, it's you can't sit there and say it's everyone else when you're like the sole factor of the one causing it. That did happen in high school. One of the counselors said that shit. It was after I threw a book at a kid's face after he was throwing paper at me constantly and annoying me. And, you know, if I told the teacher, you'd just be a bitch, right? So, you know, I had to stand up, chuck a book at his face, and then I got suspended for a week. My mom got called in. I got berated in front of her, the counselor. Some of the things I wrote were in school assignments. They didn't like that too much either. So that got brought up. And they were jokes, by the way, the stuff I wrote. I wrote how me and my friends were going to make a serial killing band. And it was going to end with us flying to the moon. But, you know, after Columbine and shit, they didn't see that way. Oops. I said we were going to become a famous serial killer like Mark Summers. You know, the host of Double Dare. Because our inside joke was that Mark Summers is probably a serial killer. Because we haven't seen him since that show. But that's besides the point. And yeah, I have read up, like, incidents where bullied students were to blame. Because they're just like, well, we can't suspend all these students, so we'll just suspend the victim. So, you know, that's a thing for some people to go through. You know, there was one incident that I read about. In fact, that TJ Kirk made a video on, too. You know, this kid died. He was singled out because he came out as gay. And like during one of the memorial sessions, a bunch of people started chanting, "You're better off dead." Wonder if any of those kids apologized for it. Wonder how any of those kids feel about it. Should track some of them down, ask them a few questions. Like, what were you thinking when you said that? You still feel that way? And I do kind of wonder, like, because I don't look up that subject right now. But I do kind of wonder what kind of incidents are going on right now we don't hear about because it's not like internationally newsworthy. All right. Now I think we got the basic colors down. Now the other question is, what do I do with the fireworks? Do I take the sky first? Because the skies are going to be black. I guess. It's going to be like a very... Well, I do have the awning here. I still have all that. The windows. Definitely going to be like a dark blue. Oh yeah, been there, done that. Yep. And the other kind of thing that kind of drives me to be like outspoken in public is just like, hey, as far as I'm concerned, my peers helped make me who I am, so now you guys gotta fucking deal with me. And if you don't like what I'm doing, well, fuck you gonna do about it? What are you gonna do about it now? Because, like, no matter what fucking bullshit you cause me, no one's gonna look at you in a sympathetic light. I already know it's like not to have one. See, once again, probably glad I wasn't thrusting into fame. Saying shit like that. It's like a fucking challenge to some people. Okay. It's this blue-gray kind of thing going on here. Get the awning. I'll get the rail later. Let's get the fucking windows done here. I figure this is small enough areas I don't have to necessarily wet ahead of time. I can just paint over it. I imagine the window's going to reflect a lot of the fireworks when we put those up. Alright. Dull color here. Let's see here. Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, I did have my moments too where I look back on it and just like, man, you guys are lucky. Back in high school, and like I didn't have any access to anything substantial at the time. Just leave it at that. So YouTube doesn't get excited, or some show doesn't get excited about what I said. It's almost like young people shouldn't have access to weapons or something like that. Because look at all these incidents that we had. Even the recent assassins we had. The Trump assassination attempt. The one on Charlie Kirk. Were they done by? Were they done by, like, hardened veterans with an agenda? No. They're just done by dumb young kids. Barely adults. Including Kyle Rittenhouse. You know, got attacked, self-defended himself. But, you know, at the same time, it's like you're a 17-year-old with a fucking rifle showing up to a goddamn riot, a fucking protest to protect some fucking tire store. And then the right wing weaponizes your, or exploits really your PTSD to become some failed speaker, or for their agenda. And I'm glad he's pulled himself away from that shit, for all, you know, all things considering. Yeah, I'd rather just hear him becoming a normal person overall. At least try to be, considering what he did. You know, murder 2 people. Self-defense or not, you don't think that fucks people up? If it doesn't, you might have a cycle on your hands. Yeah, I guess that's the trade-off of having like these emotion things, right? You start imagining what it's like to be victimized, like you know, some of the people you see on the TV screen or movies you watch. Like, oh man, I can only imagine what it'd be like if I was in that situation. Alright, well, we made some progress today. I got to go. Thanks for coming by, everybody. Take care, XP.